Today let's change the brakes on this 2010 Pathfinder. The outside pad thickness still looks okay, but you can see the inside pad was riding on the metal on metal. Let's take this caliper off. Metal on metal. Let's take this rotor off. Oh, it doesn't want to play nice. Normal side, metal on metal side. Let's take this outside pad out. Still got some meat on that pad, but the inside one had nothing, so I guess it doesn't matter what the outside one had left. Let's pull apart this caliper and check out the slide pins and see how they're working. Kind of jamming just a little bit. I mean, they're still lubed just fine, but you know, they weren't feeling super great. Let's clean them up and see what they look like. All right, let's clean out the other end. Remember which direction these went. Remove the bleeder cap, and we want to compress the pistons back in, but we don't want any of this old brake fluid going back up into the system. It's up and all baked and stuff. It's darker, and it's best we just get new fluid in. We're going to bleed them anyway, so put a little hose on here so it can go in my catch pan, and we'll compress these pistons right back into the caliper there. Before I start compressing, I gotta open the bleeder now. And this hose isn't a very good fit. It's a little big, but hopefully it'll direct it into the pan. Now at this point, you want to watch and see if these boots start to bubble out. If they do, there could be just too much air behind the boot, so you can release a little bit of pressure there so that they don't like expand out when you're trying to compress them. I think that's the end. Let's grease up these slide pins and put it back together. Oh yeah, I need to turn off the bleeder valve. We got some high temperature caliper grease here. Just a little bit in the hole there. You don't want to get too much in there, because if you get too much, it'll hydrolock. Then the piston won't go all the way down in there, or the pin won't go all the way down in the hole. And we have some new boots here. Let's put the new boots on. You know, these boots were not made for walking. Now we just have to make sure that these boots seat on the lip right up here. A little bit more. Right there. Now they're on. Or that one's on. And the back one, slide this up a little bit. More. And that one's on too. The pads came with new hardware. Let's put this on the caliper. Let's take a little bit of caliper lube and lube up these shims where the brake pads ride before we put them in. Alright, let's pull out the old hardware. There's the old one. Let's put the new one in. New pads. You know, if the old pad had one of these anti-squeal, or not anti-squeal, one of these squealers that tells you when the pads are getting thin, then maybe it wouldn't have gone down to the metal. Or, oh wait, there's only 1 out of 4, so you gotta make sure that that one side hits a squealer first. So let's put the pad with the squealer on the inside, since that's the one that wore down first. There's several different ways you can put these pads in, depending on which state you're in. Not which state, but which state of operation you're in. So, you know, if it works, it works. New rotor. Woohoo! Now they ship these rotors with a film on them so they don't rust in the box. And so we're going to clean that film off with a new can of brake cleaner. Alright, let's put this rotor on. Oh, wait a minute. I want to put anti-ACs right there so I don't have to hammer it off the next time. Now right here on this ring, well, this circular part is where the rotor rides to center it. And that's going to be a real tight fit. Sometimes if you get a rotor or a drum that doesn't fit tightly around that ring, it will not be centered. And if you have drums that are not centered, it's going to pulsate at you when you hit the brakes. Way back in the day, I had a 1986 Honda Accord, and the rear drums were a little too big in the center, and they wouldn't center. So the brakes were always pulsating at me until I figured that out and put some tape, 2 layers of electrical tape in the center, pop the drums on, and then, hey, no more pulsating. Let's see if I can get this together. Alright, I'll tighten these caliper mounting bolts to 140 foot-pounds. Here's another little thing I like to do. Put a little bit of caliper lube on these surfaces here where the pad contacts the backing plate of the pad, you know. And a little bit on the piston right here, on both sides. Alright, now let's install these return springs. Of course it's going to make them pop out, so I have to hold the pads in. And I'll tighten this slide pin bolt to 20 foot-pounds. Alright, I'm going to vacuum bleed these brakes. My vacuum pump is hooked up to the collection container, which hooks up to the bleeder valve. I'll open the bleeder, and then we will turn on the vacuum pump, and some air is going to slip by the threads on this bleeder, so it'll have air in the fluid. That's okay though. And we'll make sure that we watch the master cylinder up top, just to make sure that the fluid level doesn't drop too low. Look at the color of that brake fluid that we just captured. That's pretty nasty. Okay, I got the bleeder closed off. Let's put the cap back on. This side's done. Let's do the passenger side now. I'm going to loosen the slide pin. And amazingly, these were not over torqued. And these pads are not too bad. Oh, we're missing the release spring on the driver's side. I forgot to put that in. I'll have to go back over there and put it in. Alright, let's clean up these slide pins. Pull the boots off with them. Let's clean these out right here. A little bit of grease, caliper grease, special stuff. This is an absolutely critical part of your brake maintenance. I don't care if it feels good and looks good. If you're doing your brakes, you want to do these. New lube on the pin and put the new boot on. That's on. That's on. New brake shim things. Alright, pop that in there. Pop this in here. There we go. Oh yeah, I was gonna put a little bit of this lube right in there. Alright, new brake pads. Oh yeah. You can also lube these ends up right here, because they do go in and out, you know. It is easier to do the brakes this way than how I did it on the other side. There. Think, McFly, think! Return springs, return the sender. I'll have to hold that or something. Okay, oh yeah, gotta compress the caliper back in. Where did that hose go I just had? Crack it loose. Alright, I think that's it. A little bit of caliper lube right here, and a little bit around the edge of the piston. Make sure the brake hose isn't twisted. Squeeze the pads in. Put these bolts back in. 20 foot-pounds. The reason these only go to 20 is they're not holding back any kind of brake pressure. Let me rotate this 90 degrees on there so we can get a better angle there. There we go, now we can see it. 20. There's 20. So when you squeeze the brakes, the caliper pushes the pistons out against the outside pad. So it's pushing this, and all of the braking force gets applied to the pad, which is anchored by the mounting bracket right here. So the mounting bracket takes all the braking force, which is held by the caliper mounting bolts in the back here, not these caliper slide pins. So these aren't the ones that need to be tight. The ones that in the back need to be 140 foot-pounds. These only need to be 20 foot-pounds. Let's vacuum bleed this. Had to refill the master cylinder. Alright, I got the bleeder shut off. Turn off the vacuum. And that looks a lot better than the other side because we're getting some cleaner fluid through there. Oh yeah, I made this collection container out of a peanut butter jar. Okay, the last thing is tighten down the lug nuts to 98 foot-pounds.